Hello and welcome to Afterlife Topics. If you like this type of content, please consider subscribing to the channel or becoming a patron at patreon.com/Afterlife Topics. Hello everybody, welcome to Afterlife Topics and Metaphysics. Nothing fancy for you guys on today's video, no high definition footage or editing or music or anything like that. I just want to bring up a couple articles that are trending. This was actually something that Nick Kune from the group, from the Facebook group, brought to my attention, which is this American Psychological Association article from 2018, which I think completely debunks these ideas that there's no evidence for psi or non-materialism. So a little while back, I debated, I should say like a month ago, this guy Tom Jump on the Seeking Eye channel. So you can go to the Seeking Eye channel, you can watch that debate if you want. And really, that was a guy with an agenda. It's like a materialism fundamentalist. And so he begins the debate by, sounding very, very sincere that there has never been any evidence in the history of mankind of a psychic phenomena or something that's a non-materialism related. And the whole debate was basically him pushing that agenda and not, giving an inch to any of the evidence that exists. And it's like this when you debate anybody who has an agenda. Comparing people who believe in psychic abilities or non-materialism or the afterlife to flat earthers, which is such a ridiculous comparison that he was trying to push during that interview. And overall, the tone was just very disrespectful, and it's just what you get with these guys. So the same dude is going to be posting apparently that debate on his channel on March 1st. This was brought to my attention. And what this means is that this channel is going to be flooded by pseudoskeptics coming in and basically stinking the place up for a few days. And in lieu of that happening, I want to just point out a couple of examples that I should have brought these up during the debate. I knew about this study and I forgot about it, but I didn't. And it just completely debunks the pseudoskeptic arguments. Completely annihilates them. The idea that there's never been any evidence, that there's never been a credible journal discussing these subjects, that it's relegated to the fringe, and all of that's just a belief system. It's what I called anti-paranormalism. So it's almost like a vestige of witch hunting. So somebody has a paranormal experience, somebody has a supernatural experience, somebody has an afterlife experience. Then here's a target to be mocked and ridiculed. It's not something that I am surprised by. I've been dealing with that mentality for a long time. Again, it's like a witch hunting mentality. And this is manifestation of what pervades academia. But anyway, let's take a look at the article. So it's called The Experimental Evidence for Parapsychological Phenomena, a Review, American Psychologist by Gardena E., 2018. I don't have access to the journal, so I'm going to read the abstract. The article presents comprehensive integration of current experimental evidence and theories about so-called parapsychological or psi phenomena. Throughout history, people have reported events that seem to violate the common sense view of space and time. Cool. Some psychologists have been at the forefront of investigating these phenomena with sophisticated research protocols and theory, while others have devoted much of their careers to criticizing the field. Indeed, some people make their entire career just criticizing non-materialism, in other words, super skeptics and their acolytes. Both stances can be explained to psychologists' expertise on relevant processes such as perception, memory, belief, and conscious and non-conscious processes. This article clarifies the domain of psi, summarizes recent theories from physics and psychology that present psi phenomena as at least plausible, and then provides an overview of recent/updated meta-analyses. The evidence provides cumulative support for the reality of psi, which cannot be readily explained away by the quality of the studies, fraud, selective reporting, experimental or analytical incompetence, or other frequent criticisms. The evidence for psi is comparable to that of established phenomena in psychology and other disciplines, although there is no consensual understanding of them. So that's really heavy, isn't it? And it's the truth. So there is not a consensual understanding of it. And yet, there's people who base their entire careers off criticizing this. Like, how is history going to view you guys? Because I'm pretty sure history is going to think of you as the same people who denied that gravity existed, people who denied that the Earth was just a one rock in space among many, people who denied that the Earth did not, rather that the universe did not revolve around the Earth. I think you guys are going to be in that same category of people. And if you don't want to be viewed this way, then switch to this side. Look at studies like this one. And all you got to do is open your mind just a little bit. So the other article concerns how to escape the confines of time and space according to the CIA. And this is a Vice.com, which is surprising because Vice's user base is readers are typically very cynical atheist types of people. So it's interesting seeing this stuff coming out on Vice, but it is an overview of the Monroe Institute's Gateway Project. And this is something, again, the pseudo-skeptics have a difficult time wrestling with because it's all out there, it's admitted. And all they can really do is say, yeah, but they didn't continue the program, so it must not be real. Well, it certainly didn't feel that way when this was being investigated, and we don't know. Them closing the program just means going underground and keeping things confidential. Again, there's no way to really know. And there's a lot of credible sources that say that the CIA and such organizations still have all of this stuff in operation, but they just went dark about it because it's a national security issue. So those are the two main articles. By the way, if you're watching this and you like what we're talking about on this podcast, be sure to hit that subscribe button, like the video, share the video. YouTube is doing its thing again where it is removing subscribers from the channel, which they do to channels covering subjects that the big tech overlords don't like people talking about. And sometimes this is included because, the mainstream institutions often regard these subjects the same way that the pseudo-skeptics regard it. So it's all based in motives and agendas, and materialism is an agenda as well. So that's something I want to talk about next. Is given that there's credible papers, the American Psychological Association, through this study, recognizes psi as being real. There's not plausible explanations involving the usual issues such as ones I just mentioned, selective reporting or experimental or analytical incompetence, that there is real data that shows psi is real. Why does that matter? Why do they hate that? Why do they want to suppress that? Why do people make careers out of trying to keep this information hidden? Why is that such an issue? Because psi is, to borrow the phrasing from the other article, it is a gateway subject, right? So psi is a gateway to non-materialism. So once you accept psi, everything else is possible now. So we talk about astral projection and life after death and things like this on this channel. If you accept that psi is real, suddenly there's a mechanism and a plausibility factor to almost every other paranormal phenomena. So they have to fight even psi research, which is well documented, well studied, and well established. But they have to fight it, ridicule it, throw as much mud on it as possible, or else all the other stuff will be real. So why do people who are like, let's say YouTube pseudo-skeptics, why are they so committed to the cause? It's all psychological. It has a lot to do with belonging, right? So it's, first of all, requires absolutely zero courage to go with the mainstream academic viewpoints, to go with the system. Like, the song by, not the song, but the name of the band, Rage Against the Machine, right? It takes some courage and some conviction and an ability to stand up to authority to rage against the machine and go against what is established and attempt to introduce something new. It takes the opposite of that to become the machine, to become the establishment, to become what is agreed upon as being real, and then fighting to defend that. Because that way you get to become kind of like the bully. You get to be the one on top who gets to, toss your javelins down at all of the would-be invaders, and you can feel that sense of power and superiority by guarding the institution, and it doesn't even matter what you're guarding it from. You are just becoming that, getting that sense of power by upholding the institutional powers. Now, progress never happens within institutions. It happens from outside of institutions that get stuck in their ways. Now, I made this point on the debate with Tom, which is that the machine as it is right now that rejects psi or non-materialism or anything that that has divided between the church and science, and this was actually an invention of the church, which is that we'll handle the theological matters and you handle the matters of the earth, and going against that would result in persecution by the Inquisition. So it was hardwired into society, but it was also ultimately the tool. That division became the tool of the Enlightenment to create the world that we're living in right now, of material sciences and scientific method and controls and medicine and the things that keep our civilization going so strongly, although we still can't apparently power Texas when there's a cold weather spell, so we're not quite there yet with advanced technology, but it's allowed us to come thus far to where we are. And we have a lot to be grateful for about the Enlightenment era institution. But this has eventually become what we see today, which is an institution that rejects, on an ideological ground, non-materialism. Because it dates all the way back to the church, we don't want matters of consciousness, which is related in a sense to matters of divinity, to become mixed with matters of the physical processes of the earth. So you have the pseudoskeptics online, and you have the materialism acolytes and these people who are defending the system, who are raging for the machine, not against the machine. And they get the power from doing that. They get this sense of acceptance. Maybe they didn't have that acceptance in school, or they were, bullied, or, they're mistreated by their parents, and so they want to make up for that. So they say, I am going to be the arbiter of the institution. I'm going to get all that power and gain acceptance this way, right? So that's what they're receiving. That's their payment for joining that cause. Now you go levels above that, and we can go into a little bit of the conspiratorial angle, the tinfoil hat angle here, by saying that there's powers that know all this stuff is real, but they want a system in place to keep it under wraps, because basically materialism-based society is one that's full of fear, full of existential angst and worry, one that is easily bribed, I suppose, with pharmaceuticals. You can get rid of that existential fear and worry by taking antidepressants and making the pharmaceutical companies lots of money. You can use very expensive medicines to heal yourself without going into, for example, if we introduce non-materialism as a paradigm, it would probably revolutionize healthcare. There'd probably be new technologies coming out that wouldn't cost a lot of money. You'd have a society that would be expanding its consciousness rapidly, which would also mean average people becoming less stupid, less easy to control, less easy to manipulate. It would mean that a lot of big powers would lose money. It would mean that you'd be knocking around our consumerist society the way it is, the way it's been built and brought up, And a lot of powers don't want that to happen. Finally, it would also mess up global politics and military technology. Remote viewing is so powerful, can be so powerful, that how can you keep secrets anymore when every government has remote viewing teams that can track data and get secrets from every other government? So governments that are aware of non-materialism have to keep this stuff as secret as possible so that the freaking government of, I don't know, Pakistan doesn't just come in and spy on our new missile plans. Can the average remote viewer do this? Maybe not. But a military trained remote viewer, I think, has the potential to get info about almost anything you can imagine. So that's another reason. So you have all these motives in place on the higher echelon. So they basically get all these useful idiots to come together and rage for the machine and support these institutional ideas of materialism. So that is how the machine operates. And that's what we're dealing with. And ultimately, I'll leave off by saying this. These people, like the pseudoskeptics and this type of thing, it's not as prevalent as it used to be. So in fact, some of these guys, when they're in their bubble, they think, we own the subject and, we are the ones keeping society from the rising tide of irrationality, to paraphrase. I don't know if that was Shermer or James Randi or somebody like that who made that famous quote. So they think that they're doing that, but in reality, they have lost track of the public. So the public is not into anti-paranormalism. It's not exciting, it's not sexy, it's not adventurous. As a result of that, there really is no such thing as a strict anti-paranormal channel or community that is very popular. There's people who are big fans of anti-paranormalists like Bill Nye or Neil Tyson, but they're not necessarily big fans of them because they're anti-paranormal. They're big fans of them because they're charismatic personalities. People grew up watching Bill Nye. I grew up watching Bill Nye. Neil Tyson actually can say a lot of funny, curious, interesting, and creative things on TV when he's on Conan O'Brien. So this is why people really like those personalities. It's a much, much smaller demographic of pseudo-skeptic, because most people who have a lick of common sense and just, empathic ability, intuitive ability, know that this is all BS. They know that, you're siding with, for one thing, you're siding with a losing team, but it's also a lot of constructing arguments based upon emotion and not based upon logical analysis of the evidence. So most people avoid it. So, the public at large likes paranormal stuff, likes sci, likes the stuff we talk about on this channel. Younger people these days are all into astral projection. People dig this stuff, and the pseudo-skeptic side is rapidly losing. And there's nothing that they can do about it. And so to come full circle, so I wanted to put all this out there. I wanted to make this lecture, make this podcast episode as a preemptive response to some of the pseudo-skeptics who will undoubtedly find this channel and, start raising hell in the comments, because this has happened in the past, and it's never pleasant. You always get, really nasty, unhappy, kind of miserable people coming into the comments, ridiculing everybody, deriding everything, disliking all the videos, and just acting kind of like, going from what is in their hearts, which is, I think, usually something that's quite broken. And obviously it's not a big deal to me, because I've been running communities like this, or being involved in communities like this, probably since I was a teenager. And I know how to deal with these people, and it actually is a good thing, because it brings in more people basically to my side of the aisle, because people see how they act, and people usually think, well, I don't want anything to do with these people. I want to keep my mind open, and I'm going to keep looking at possibilities. I'm not going to let these people tell me how to think. So I actually welcome it, and it's why I did that debate in the first place, because in many ways we need more, of these people basically revealing themselves to be how they are. And as they say, sometimes the best way to cure something is expose it to the sunlight. Shine light on the dark corners and bring things out into the open. It's why I'm very anti-censorship. That's something we see so much happening here on YouTube, on big tech platforms, is the censorship. And they've never quite gone so far as to censor psi information, but that is something that they're just like, their finger is hovering over the button to begin censoring these subjects, because they know that they'll never get the public on their side in a organic fashion. So the only way to deal with that is censorship. And I say, forget about censorship. Always shine the light on places and allow people to have their platforms and reveal what they're all about. So that's it for this video. I hope you like this podcast episode. I know it's a lot of me talking, but if you like that kind of thing, then thank you for being here and listening to me. You can get involved at Afterlife Topics Metaphysics on Facebook, or join the Patreon page, patreon.com/Afterlife Topics. Patrons who sign up are at the $30 level, I should say, get unlimited coaching with me. So every day I'm coaching one of the patrons, usually about astral projection and things related to that subject. And it's all included if you sign up as a patron at the $30 level. That allows me to do things like buy new backdrops, new cameras, new video editing laptops, and green screens, and microphones, and also food that I'm able to put food in my mouth and chew it, swallow it, keeps the physical body active instead of dead, which allows me to run a podcast like this. So any help on that front is appreciated. With that being said, that's it for today's video, and I will see you all on hopefully a higher quality video next time. I'll get back to my main camera and create something a little bit nicer or more professionally edited, but I felt like ranting today. I didn't feel like editing. That was my problem today. Anyway,